Welcome to this video. This is part 2 of the sorcery of black magic and the mechanics thereof, along with its history and just about everything you can think of, which is going to be going into these videos. Now, one of the things that really come up, and I know it's not just me, a lot of practitioners have literally gone up against the same stone wall. Most of this is due to the Judeo-Christian Society, but legal matters, such as the legal laws, play a huge part in this. From Fraser to back in 1911 to Dr. Shapira, who came later in the 1960s or 70s area. Now, a lot of things, legally speaking, has plagued witchcraft and sorceries for centuries. In the old days, people used to seek out sorcerers, be it witches, warlocks, shamans, wizards, medicine men, and most importantly, witch doctors. But how do we discern good from evil, light from dark? Okay? And this really comes down to the laws of the land. Okay? Society's little quirks of deciding what is considered white light magic, which is beneficial to humanity, or just basically going along with society with non-disruptive functions. And then you have the black magic, or what is classified as evil magic. That is, how should I say this, baneful magic that is disruptive to society in general, and is more for personal gain or influence within the world. Now, Fraser suggested that the laws of the land were built around one tribe, or one type of legal system, where things were considered to be up to the chief or a council. Whereas later you have Dr. Shapina, who literally discerned the difference between not just one categorized function or tribe, but went into multiple tribes. If we look at, say for an example, Africa, we see that there are multiple different tribes of people. And a lot of these tribes have their own voodoo priests and priestesses. The Bruja or the Brujo, the witch and warlock or the sorcerer, whatever you want to call them, medicine men, medicine women, sorcerers, sorceresses, okay? And what's interesting about this is that with one tribe may have its own laws, whereas in another, it literally is the complete opposite. For an example, let's say for an example that the United States of America, which has no witchcraft law, has no legal means against black magic. Nothing illegal against it. Even though in the past, around the late 80s and early 90s, there was what was called the Satanic Panic, where every crime was reputed to be placed at the hands of a Satanist or some form of witchcraft, which basically took everything back to the witchcraft trials, and basically could have been the next generation of burning times. However, if it wasn't for the FBI stepping in and stating that a small handful of crimes were actually done by practitioners, and these were more cults than anything, and not meant to be associated with actual practicing Satanists and witches and warlocks and such. It is like the fundamentalists in Christianity that create compounds, or compounds with armed guards, and where ministers and the men can have as many women as they see fit. Like, say, for example, Waco. Prime example there. And where the government had to step in. Now, from what I understand from a biography, even Rose McGowan, outside of over in Oregon, actually came from a cult, a Christianized cult. Okay, so you see that it's not just Satanism that has these criminals, or these laws against certain types of behavior or practice. Charles Manson was another one who was banished from the Church of Satan, and he went on to create the cult known as his family, and then we all know how that turned out. But what most people don't realize is that the world is not the United States. Over in, say for example, Sweden or Greenland, there's a whole nother set of laws. Whereas in England, people actually do commit heinous crimes that are considered practitioners. Anthony Stewart, what's his name? Last name? Anthony Stewart Head, I think. Anthony Head Stewart or something like that. He's the one that played Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He actually did a documentary on YouTube that was a full hour. Or not an hour, it was more like 40 minutes. About 45 minutes area. And he went all over the world, from England down into Africa. And what's interesting about this is that just like in the world, the heavily populated mass hysteria is in Central Africa, around Ethiopia, the Congo region, and most of all, Malawi. Okay? These three regions have a certain outlook. It's like if you go down to what is known as the Bible Belt, and you are not a part of the good old boys group, the Christians, okay, then you are considered an outcast and you are shunned. If you're Amish, and you take in, technology, you're shunned, and so forth. Okay, so over in Africa, in these three regions, you have the practitioners that practice healing magics. Therefore, they go along with society's rules and regulations, and they sit there and they practice herbalism. They practice healing magics. But you've also got their polar opposite, which is just as equally powerful. That is more solitude. And a lot of people not only fear them, but they also seek them out. And these are known as Boko or Bokor, depending on the religious or philosophical formation. And what's interesting about this is that over in Malawi, they actually have a task force which is set up literally, to investigate occult crimes. They've actually found some of these Bokor, or these Boko or Bokor, who have severed limbs or body parts of their relatives within handbags, and they've been arrested and convicted of practicing witchcraft. But the thing is that in these regions, anyone considered to be a warlock or a Boko or Bokor is shunned. They really look down on them, much like the old, the Christians of old did when they would have cast the first stone. They would have lined up and stoned you to death. And this is still going on in these third world countries today, which is very fascinating because of the fact that when we look at this, we see a pattern of opposing forces, much in the same way as, say, for example, the scroll of Arman, which is a part of one of the scrolls within the Dead Sea Scrolls, which talks about the war between the sons of darkness and the sons of light. Belial, the master, also referred to in the Bible, whose children are known as the children of Belial, or the sons and daughters of Belial. Okay, and then you have those of the light, which is led by Michael, or Michael in cuneiform. Okay, and what's interesting is that throughout history you see the same legalized warfare, these dualities dating all the way back to pre-Zoroastrian times. Zoroastrianism predates Christianity in the Judeo-Christian societies by hundreds, if not thousands, of years. And this is very, very interesting because of the fact that the laws of the land are different. Let's take a look at it from two different churches. Okay? On one hand, you have the Vatican. On the other hand, you have the European Church. You have the priests or the Vatican, and then you have the Knights of Templar, which are known as the protectors of the people back in around the 5th century all the way up into the 11th and 12th century before they were exterminated and basically deemed illegal because they rivaled the church, the Vatican, and both in wealth and power, and not just the power but the influence that went along with it. And they had a different set of laws because not only did they practice Christianity, but they also practiced the pagan values. And they worshipped Baphomet. Okay? Whereas the Vatican solely worshipped Jesus Christ and Yahweh, God, Yazad, whatever you want to call him. Okay? So right there you have two different laws. And then the Vatican basically started deeming things illegal like they always did when they took over and moved into a region and started moving in, befriending, and then basically dubbing things illegal. And this is what's interesting about this, is because of the fact that when we look at the world today and we look back throughout the last 1,000 years, if not, say, 1,500 years, 2,500 years, you're going to see the same duality within the laws of the land. But not every land has the same laws. And Africa is a prime example of this because within one clan or one tribe, they accept the witches, the warlocks, the sorcerers as counsels to the chief of that particular tribe. Whereas in another tribe, they're considered to be two different types, the good and the evil, the baneful magic users and the white light magic users. So therefore, things that go along with society is considered to be good, otherwise known as sheephood, or drones. And then you have those who are black magic practitioners that go against society, and the same way as the title or name of Satan. And both Hebrew and Islamic traditions, Hebrew, Satan is known as the adversary. His pronunciation is Ha-Satan, whereas in where he's the adversary. But if we go into Islamic traditions, it's El-Shaitan. El-Shaitan, okay? And this is where he became known as the accuser. Okay, so not only are there the accuser, but you have the adversary, okay? The opposer, okay? Anything that opposes the laws of society is deemed evil and therefore is shunned, banished, murdered, killed, disgraced, whatever, by any means necessary by society. So you see, the laws of the land not only apply to location, but it's different from tribe to tribe, country to country. If we practiced black magic or any form of magic in, say, for example, Spain, you'd basically strung up and hung. Okay, you'd be terminated with extreme prejudice. Whereas here in the United States, you can practice whatever you want freely underneath the freedom of religion, which is the United States constitutional right of the individual. It is the First Amendment right, because not only do you have scripture, but you got a foundation. Okay? Therefore, you are recognized as a religion and therefore protected by the United States government. However, not every country has this system where you can actually turn around and go to the American Civil Liberties Union or the Department of Justice and seek their help in filing an official report against certain groups that are trying to limit you. In the form of religious land use and personalized religious acts, under equal terms, it clearly states that no individual has a right to limit, deny, or basically shun your religious beliefs. And it's considered illegal. So, you see, it is different from land and tribe. Everything is different worldwide. Now, I got a friend that lives over in Sweden, and she basically says that you can practice whatever you want, but just don't make it, public. A friend of mine down in Louisiana says, yeah, well, you can practice whatever you want, go wherever you want, just keep it under wraps. Basically, don't try to, rub it in people's faces, so to speak. Which is true, because not everybody's going to take it with a grain of salt. So that's this video on the second video to this series and of witchcraft. And I thought I'd touch on the legal system first so that you can actually see the difference in how people actually view it. But I would recommend that you get into the African traditions and actually look at the different tribes and how they view witchcraft, sorceries, and magic. Okay? And get into some of the studies, especially that of the FBI. Get into the studies of like Fraser and Chapina. And I believe there's Manawi and what's the other one's name? I can't think of it offhand, but it's basically right there. So I thought I'd touch on this legal system. Tomorrow I will do another round of series on black magic and witchcraft, and actually get into the actual practices and the items and everything, and actually show you how these items really play a pivotal role within your practices. All right? Have a good night, and until next time.